Okay. Ready when you are. Thank you.
All right. So calling the meeting at 3:05. Welcome. Do we want to do the round of quick introductions since we have a lot of non-WIC people in the room?
Yeah.
No, sure.
All right. All right. So I am Erin Rogers. I am the chair of the WIC committee.
Do we say who you're from too? Like,
oh, right. I am from Trout Unlimited.
Aaron, do you want to point to people to go?
Or let's go with Vicky next.
Hi everyone, my name's Vicky. I'm a project manager and outreach specialist here at Portney Meadowy Natural Resources Conservation District, working alongside Hillary.
All right, then we'll go to Hillary.
oh, Hillary Solomon with the Portney Meadowy Conservation District, and also a partner. The Conservation District is a partner with the RPC as the QUISP.
We'll move down to Adam.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adam Luigi. I'm director of the Addison County Regional Planning Commission. Your normal representative from ACRPC is Mike Winslow, but he's away on vacation, so I am joining you today.
Great. Chris.
Hi, everybody. I'm not on the WIC, but I am with the state. I'm with TEC, and I just am here to support the work you're doing. Good to see you all.
Shane.
Hi, everybody. Shane Jakewith with the Nature Conservancy. I'm a river and watershed restoration scientist. I am serving on the WIC and actually as the vice chair.
Great. Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm with Arrowwood Environmental, and I'm an ecologist here. And I've got a project to talk about.
Great, thanks. Dan.
I'm Dan Redondo, a representative from, serving to represent the town of Orwell. And I also am the owner of Vermont Wetland Plant Supply, the wholesale division of our native plant production. And then we also do Green Mountain Natives, our retail operation that's online. But yeah, here to represent the town of Orwell.
Gloria.
My name's Gloria Weber, and I live in the town of Wells, and we have a project apparently that we're going to be talking about that is taking place on my property.
Great. Mark.
Mark Shea, property owner, just like Gloria, related to the project that way.
Super. Devin.
Devin Aaron, the executive director at Rutland Regional Planning Commission.
Jeremy.
Looks like Jeremy threw in the chat.
Unmuted. Oh, there we go, from Lake St. Catherine Association. Thanks so much. And Katie.
Hi there, Katie Crumley. I'm here as a board member for Portney Meadowy.
Great. I think that's everyone. If I didn't call your name, apologies, and feel free to chime in. All right, otherwise, we'll go through and approval of the April 30th, 2026 agenda. Everyone get a chance to at least look through that? Any asks for changes or anything? Anybody want to make a motion to approve?
Evan, was the order of project review there, the way we're going to do it?
That's, Hillary, are you asking about my request to change the project
Well,
order?
we had a couple requests. Shane, You're
Okay.
not the only one. And now the folks from that project are coming in at the end of the meeting, so.
So what's the order you'd prefer, Hill?
The Meadowy School first, then Locklear, then Austin Pond.
Could we amend that motion to as amended?
Yeah, I'll propose a motion to amend the project review order as requested by Hillary.
Great, I'll second. All in favor? By your hands. Any opposed? Any abstain? Great, thanks.
Aaron,
Yes.
I did have one other very minor comment on the minutes there. Under the review of new projects, I don't think the project name was ever mentioned.
Interesting.
Is that in the January 29 minutes?
Yeah, page 2. It just starts with Solomon introduced the project.
Yeah. Yep, that should be in there.
So I think it's just, yeah, just helpful for the unfamiliar reader. And then not a comment on these minutes, but just an observation from these minutes is that we had voted to postpone the approval of the September 18th, 2025 minutes until today. If I'm reading that correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we were without quorum at the time. Is that right?
Right. Probably.
Oh, it's because we didn't have the minutes, so people didn't review them. That was it.
Yeah, they didn't know how to get to them.
Do we have those handy or are we tabling those again? Maybe by next September we'll get around to them.
You can get them. They're on the same from the same link that these minutes were at. The question is, do we want to give people the time to review them right now? Maybe that's another question.
Well, let's start with, or can we start with approving the January 29th minutes? As amended by Shane's comment?
I'll move that. We don't have a motion to do that. Is that right?
Not yet.
Yeah. So I'll move that we approve the January 29 minutes as amended by my comment.
Second.
Great. All in favor? Your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
You have enough votes that I can abstain?
That's an excellent question.
Don't think so.
I don't think so.
All right, you guys are certifying to me that they're correct, right?
Correct.
All right, I
On
vote
the
yes. All right, perfect.
Very good. And then what do we want to do on the September minutes, which Adam has even less prior knowledge of?
You want to punt that one to the next meeting?
Sure. I'm okay with
Wait.
punting that one to the next meeting.
But somehow between all of us, we have to remember to send the September minutes out or put a note about it in the emails so people remember.
We'll have to put that in bold font in the minutes from today that we
Yes.
voted to
Yes, good.
delay that
Alright.
once again.
All right. So we'll go ahead and open to the public then, or do we need to motion approve that tabling of the September minutes, or do we just kind of?
You don't need a
Okay.
motion or second on tabling. Yep.
Okay, great. So we'll open up to the public.
I think most public here would be waiting till their project comes up and then they can make comments. If anybody has any general comments that they want to say beforehand.
Nope.
All right, then we'll jump into the review of new projects, starting with Meadowee Community School wetland restoration implementation.
Excellent. We should have a little presentation for everybody.
Okay. Hillary, are you taking this one?
Yeah, I can take it, and Eric's here, who's the engineer on the project and can answer questions. Yeah, that's fine. No problem. If you don't mind doing Austin Pond.
Nope, happy to.
Okay, perfect. All right. So I think I'll just give a brief overview, and then Eric, I'll let you sort of fill in any missing gaps. So this is at the Meadowy Community School, which is down in West Pollitt, and the Merck Farm and Forest Land owns a large parcel of land right behind the school. So this project is mostly on that property, but is a little bit on the school property as well. And the school has been using this area for educational uses. And they are excited about this project and are going to be able to do more sort of more studies and more interfacing with the project. They have a separate project that has allowed them to build a boardwalk. They've been working, I believe it's installed now, and they worked with the state to get all that permitted. But so they'll have access to some of these areas. So basically a wetland restoration. It's an area that's had some heavy agricultural uses in the past. So a lot of invasive species. There's an old sort of dugout area that was probably a stock pond. It's a wetland, and there are little streams that have been sort of ditched through the area. And so the idea is to restore this, to remove some of the invasives in order to prepare the site for native tree and shrub plantings. And there's a lot of canary reedgrass, so just trying to mitigate some of those species that are going to make it difficult for the native plants to take hold as part of this project. And I think, so the project cost, so you can see it's a 3.3 acre planting. There's over 1.5 acres of no mow zone that's in addition to that planting, which is eventually going to be also a no mow zone. And then in total, the project area is a little over 7 acres, almost 8 acres of various treatments. And it's quite a few different things happening. And some of it is maintenance that the school is going to be doing for various reasons. And then other parts will be something that a contractor would come in and do as part of this project, depending on what those activities are. So the project cost is a little higher than usual for a tree planting because there's the invasive species that need to be removed before the tree planting, which is something that, and happy for any input from Chris if this isn't accurate, but something that now site prep is part of, removing invasives as part of site prep is now something that's allowed through the funding policy. Phosphorus reduction is at 3.687 or 3.6 to 3.7 kilograms per year, and the cost efficiency at that 22,683 per kilogram. The project scored fairly highly. Just looking at all the things that we normally look at in that project score, the cost efficiency, it's a little bit over the stream restoration price. So it got dinged a little bit there. The price that's in our formula. And then, it was something that was highly valued by the landowner. It has a lot of community input. We have the whole school there in terms of the education and outreach value. And it's draining to the Meadoway River, which drains obviously directly into Lake Champlain. The co-benefits were high, and some of that was the wetland restoration itself, and some of that was the community involvement and the Meadoway School being so involved in this project. The teachers and the principal have been involved the whole way through. So yeah, the total project score of 67.5 out of 100. And we have the co-benefits. I think we should flip to the next slide, which is a map, and let Eric sort of go into maybe a little more detail or answer questions about the project itself. And then we have the co-benefit score. If anybody wants to change any of those numbers, we can do that. And then we can, I'll turn it over to Eric now.
Okay, thank you. So we were actually lucky enough to be the consultants on the boardwalk project. And so we did that first last year, and they successfully completed that sometime in the last year. And so it was really fun to design a restoration project that was able to highlight the access that the students get via this boardwalk. You can see on that map the boardwalk's that kind of wishbone shaped thing, and they actually have a viewing platform out on the old stock pond. And so we decided not to try to change the pond too much so that it was still a destination for the students, and it's kind of slowly filling in. And then we just surveyed the whole site and tried to decide what would be the best treatment for the ecology. So there's some areas that actually have really nice diverse native herbaceous plants and some shrub recruitment, so we thought we should leave those alone. And then we concentrated the plantings on these areas that have high densities of reed canary grass or just low native plant diversity in general. There's one area on the east there that has kind of a darker green hash marking, and we're going to treat that with an excavator before doing the plantings, and that's this stand of just incredibly dense reed canary grass that seems like it's going to choke out anything we plant there. So I've been on some projects where we knock it back by using an excavator to flip it over and create some microtopography. So we're going to do that and then plant into it and plant some native wetland seeds. Do you have any other maps, Hillary, or is this the one? You're muted.
So I had trouble getting those maps to turn into JPEGs. So my computer was just struggling a little bit with the size of the file. So if you want to share your screen, we could show the other maps.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, so this is that same map. I'm sorry that I didn't explain the colors. Orange is no mow, green is bare root tree and shrub planting. There's some goutweed on the property, so we're going to treat that. And then the dark green is existing trees and shrubs. So let's see. Also, something I want to draw your attention to is there's this pink hatching around the entry to the boardwalk, and this was part of the project that we designed with the students and the staff, or really more likely the staff with the students in mind, and that's a native plant garden, and we thought it would be nice to do more than just tree and shrub planting, but do some herbaceous native planting around that entrance to give people sort of a ceremonial entrance to this new boardwalk that they have, or kind of just a nice way to enter into the restoration project. So this is the native plant garden looking in, and we gave two different cost estimates, and we put the cheaper estimate into the total project cost. And I don't know how much I should get into here, but we did things like swamp milkweed and turtlehead and boneset, and these are all plants that we either saw on the property and wanted to highlight and bring together so students could study them or see them in a more concentrated way, or just because they're beautiful or edible or good for pollinators, but they're all native and ecologically appropriate. And then we had a fun time putting together a really detailed planting plan where we broke up the area by different moisture regimes and have planting plans for 5 different moisture regimes to really make sure that there's a diversity of native trees and shrubs on site and that they match the ecological conditions in a more natural way. And so we think that it's going to be a really nice project because of that. There's more to say, but maybe I'll just let people ask questions or see, Hillary, if you want to keep going with whatever you have next.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, we don't have tons of time per project. So let's see if people have questions, how people are feeling about this project overall.
Hillary, I have a question. You mentioned that the stream had been ditched in your description. The report, I think that was your report, Eric,
Yeah.
your Arrowwood's report, indicated that the channel has good connectivity with the floodplain. There was no incision. And so those just seem to be, well, I guess maybe it was ditched and it's graded over time and it's regained that connectivity. So that's one question, and then this is the second of only 2 questions. You mentioned that there's wood and no reason to add wood to the streams. I'm wondering if you guys actually did a wood count or quantified that in any way.
Yeah, so to the first question, it was historically ditched and it's pretty straight, but it has graded a lot. It's very silty and there's not much of an incision ratio. Um, the whole area is wet every spring. Um, so we decided to focus more on plantings and than on manipulating the stream. And then with wood, we did not do a stream count. I mean, a wood count. But a lot of the old ditch or current stream has a lot of like box elder and stuff around it, and there's just stuff already falling in and soon to be falling in. So we did suggest that the students could bring coarse woody debris into the pond just to add a little habitat diversity and have an interesting kind of project to watch over time. But we didn't suggest it for the stream itself.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can hop in, I guess how are you guys feeling about the price per kilogram? And has there been any conversation about Merck maybe providing some match for the project?
Is this a question for me or for Hillary?
Maybe Hillary, I don't know.
It's funny because we'll have the same conversation probably with Austin Pond Project, but as tree plantings, they don't pencil out as well as stream restorations or wetland restorations. It's better. So it's just the funding, we're working with the funding formula, which has a certain price point per kilogram. So for this one, it's like, it's not it's like a stream restoration. So it works out. I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see how it all goes because this is something really different than how we normally plant. And we don't do the sort of site manipulation that they're talking about to get rid of the invasive. So I'm interested to see someone come and do this planting and see how it works, which isn't answering your question, but I guess we felt like it was okay.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering if match was considered and if you felt like it was necessary, but yeah, if that answers it enough, I suppose.
I'm not great about asking for match though, so that is a good point.
So Hillary, I mean, to follow up on that question, can you remind us? At one point, I thought there was like the policy stated that, the Quist would pay like 12 grand per kilogram, like we had a maximum. That's changed, I believe, and that has to do with the fact that, well, go ahead, if you could.
It's just that the maximums have gone up quite a bit. So, and they've been the formulas. So what do they call it? The methodology has been updated. And so there's some differences in which project types are counted in sort of the base funding level for the different sectors. So stream, forest, ag, or developed land. But they all went up quite a bit. So it's interesting because plantings are the only thing that are counted in the agricultural sector, but the two plantings we're looking at aren't really they don't fit in that sector. So it would be more like a stream restoration. Anyhow, so the stream restoration price per kilogram we were just looking at this, but it's like $21,000 per kilogram. So this project is just, if I recall from the slides, I think this is just slightly over that per kilogram. It's
22.
That's in the slide, one of the slides in the one we were just looking at before we looked at
I can stop sharing mine.
Okay. So you are paying attention to the maximum cost per kilogram allowed by the states. I can't remember the methodology.
Yeah, Devin, can you put the slides back up? The one with the text on it?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, so those are the main points for our score. So that score of 67, I think this one got 30 out of 50 because it didn't quite meet. So if you meet our average over the whole formula, you get top points. And then, which is about $19,000 per kilogram now. It used to be 8. And then if you meet the sector score, you get 40 points. This one was just below the sector score, so we got 30 points for the main part of the score. And then it has other pieces that go into that, like the project longevity, the maintenance, is it recommended in a plan? Is there community buy-in? So that's how we got, and then adding the co-benefits. So that's the project score of that 52.5. That's without the co-benefits.
Yeah, Hillary, I think when I asked the question, I was thinking more like 10,000 was what we were aiming for. So that is helpful for me to recalibrate too.
Yeah. And this is cost efficiency of like dollars per kilogram, it's not dollars per acre, which is usually how we like measure the cost of our plantings when we're like pre-QUISP. When we were putting our applications in, that was sort of how they were measured, was dollars per acre.
Right.
So it's a little different measurement.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then we have the co-benefits if we want to flip to that slide. Devin. There we go. So these were the co-benefits from this project. They're highlighted if we thought that they were applicable.
Hillary, how would a project achieve a better local pollution prevention? Would there be like a lot of runoff coming off of parking lots or something? Like, how do you evaluate that?
Yeah, that's the only, like the Locklear project got both of those points because there's runoff from a road
Yeah.
to be in a developed area.
Okay.
And then oftentimes the projects in developed areas will get that point, but then a lot of the habitat sort of diversity scores
Yeah.
they don't get.
Yeah.
So what is the will of the council on this one? I'll go back.
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal as presented to get the conversation going.
I'll second that.
Who seconded? Sorry.
Dan.
Dan, okay.
All in favor or any conversation to be had around that motion?
I'm just trying to keep up notes.
No further conversation.
All right. So all in favor, hands or aye?
Aye.
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 Any oppose? Any abstain? All right, sounds good. Locklear Lane.
Woohoo!
Okay.
All right, we have 2 out of the 3 landowners here, so that's a good sign. And Jeremy with the Lake Association, who's the applicant. But I think Jeremy's at work and is listening but can't talk. So I can present this one and then the landowners can include any information that they'd like to add. So these are 3, so this is a suite of projects. It's on a private road. There are 3 adjoining lots and each lot will get a project. The two projects, the two Locklear Lane 01As are, for whatever reason, are kind of grouped together. So there's the stormwater will be collected from coming down the hill. It's a pretty steep hill. A lot of water comes down the hill. It gets, a road sort of cuts across the hill, and then the drainage all ends up crossing through a culvert in the middle of the road. So the drainage that's to the sort of north of the culvert goes into that biofiltration area A to be treated there. That's on Gloria's property. The runoff that comes down the hill and then crosses under the road goes into that drainage stabilization area. It's got this kind of eroded area that it runs into that wasn't ever really meant to carry water. So that's on the person's property who isn't here today, but who's met with everybody. And then we have the Mark with the second sort of biofiltration area on his property, and that driveway kind of makes an S. Water comes from the top, it comes from underneath it. It ends up running down the driveway and shooting off to the south and taking a bunch of gravel with it. And we're trying to keep the water off the driveway and infiltrate it. So this one, so again, the costs have gone up quite a bit. So now it's $49,422 is our new limit for stormwater projects, which is what this one is. So this one actually comes in under that limit, which I think we may not have totally suspected when we were doing the score, but because I think it would have maybe could have, maybe it's okay. I don't know. Maybe it could have scored a little higher. But anyhow, it scores very similarly to the Meadowy School. They were both within a half a point of each other. So yeah, this one was a little tricky because it has the roads, driveways, places where people drive involved. And so it had to go through a lot of conversations with different people at DEC to make sure it was fundable. But I think we had agreement from staff at DEC that this was a fundable project, and a lot of different ideas about ways to calculate the phosphorus removal, whether you're counting the road or not counting the road. So a lot of work between the folks at DEC and Lakes and Ponds. Angie, our basin planner, who's missing today, but has reviewed all these projects thoroughly. Yeah, so just on kind of how to score this. And if we can flip to the next slide. Excellent. So this is the property. So this is Gloria's property to the north there. And you can see how drainage is, kind of collecting drainage and putting it into that infiltration area. And then that middle project at the bottom of the page is the drainage, that eroded drainage area that's coming from the cross culvert, bringing water down the hill. And then if we go to Mark's project, looks pretty similar to Gloria's. It's just on the other side. This all makes a big circle. So Mark has a similar sort of trying to improve the conveyance of water, keep it off the driveway, and then infiltrate it at the bottom. And then there's an existing cross culvert that goes into the lake. So those two treatments will happen on either side of that cross culvert. Water will drain out of the treatment areas and then cross into the lake. Right now it just goes into the lake untreated. And then this one doesn't show that middle one, but there's that middle practice also on the green line in the middle of that property. These are from two different reports that were done like a month apart, so not everything's duplicated on these plans. So I can let the homeowner speak if you guys would like to say anything, and then we can field questions.
I'm not sure what kind of information you would need for me. I know that there's been change over time in the amount of water flowing down through the culvert. And obviously we had a nice winter. So this one was pretty good up until recently when we had the dry spell. So it's, it's not too bad right now, but we got a lot of driveway on both sides of this area, and all of the water coming off of the hillside behind us basically is flowing right down in there and washing quite a bit away.
That's perfect. Thanks, Gloria.
Hillary, and maybe Chris, this is maybe a question for you too. this project brings up a lot of policy questions for me. It sounds like the flow of the water is originating off-site, which reminds me of the gully project, Hillary, that you were trying to work on. And there was an issue with treating the gully because the project, the problem originated off-site. From the way you just described this sounds kind of the same thing. So I'm wondering if this is a developed lands project and that's why it's okay to do that here. And I guess I'm wondering about how the fact that this is private property plays in. And I guess I should have maybe maybe I should have started with the question of whether these sort of policy considerations are even in our purview. Maybe I shouldn't even be asking these questions. And our review is more to be on, the technical aspects of the project. So I guess starting there would be great. Like, what is our purview of consideration on these projects? And then if we are supposed to be thinking about the policy and whether these, a particular project is eligible or compliant with existing policies, getting to those other two questions would be great. But if our purview is strictly to be confined to technical considerations, then we don't need to discuss the other two questions I have.
I guess that's the reason, part of the reason why there was so much sort of discussion with DEC was for all these kind of considerations. Private property is definitely not an issue. That's like part of being voluntary projects is that they're going to be on private property. There just isn't enough. I mean, there's not enough state or town municipally owned land that we can solve the problems without private property. So that's fine. I don't know that the gully issue is a funny one because I was just talking to another quest today and they were talking about something, similar, very similar type of thing. I've sort of taken this to be, it's like this is runoff. This is not a stream. So I don't know if that makes a difference. I was thinking that a gully on a stream is, I don't know. This is like an eroded drainage thing from a cross culvert, right? Like the cross culverts caused the problem. It's not in an area that took water before. So I think that just stabilizing that so it can receive the water, which we've done before. I guess I don't look at it like it's a gully.
Right.
Well, I mean, it isn't a gully. I don't think it doesn't look like a gully.
No, it's not a gully. I just like, it's like if you can do this here, why can't you treat the gully, which is an eroding location on the landscape because flow has been rerouted over time in a way that it didn't route before development came in. So you can do this here, but you can't treat the gully over there. And it seems to me like, that you have the same scenario, right?
Yeah, no, I feel that way about a couple of our gully projects too, that it's the cross culverts are the main issues.
But I'll go back
together, but
I will go back to like if we don't need to be discussing these policy considerations and we're really just supposed to be discussing the technical aspects of the project, we don't need to discuss all this.
Yeah, I felt like it made it through everyone's review. Angie did say like be mindful of, where the water's coming from for that reason. So it is a consideration. Adam?
I can say that we've done a couple of projects like this up in Otter Creek on Lake Dunmore. So kind of a very similar arrangement.
Thanks, Adam. Chris?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Gullies are generally ineligible, but the one gully type that is eligible is gullies that result from developed lands. So if the source of the gully is developed lands, then you can do it. You can address the gully for what it's worth.
And is that the case, Chris? Is that the case here? This is considered to be developed lands?
I am not familiar with this project. I actually don't know if this is a gully. I think this is a stormwater project. That's not a gully.
Right.
So I would just defer to Angie and Hillary, who've been in the weeds on this project. And if Angie's giving the thumbs up, I defer to that. And then on your question about like your role, it's maybe a little nuanced. Like I would defer to the QUISP, to Hillary and to Devin on the technical questions, but it doesn't mean you can't ask them, because your role is to help provide some risk management analysis. And so if the technical question is helpful for you, or like, you know, I think last time there was this question that came up with the Castleton project about the area that you're measuring for stormwater, and like, that's a technical question. And you know, it's good that we figured that out in the BWIC meeting, and there's some research that had to go in after the fact. Like there's some collective support we're providing as a community here. So if you're raising questions and making a project better, I would just say that's a good thing.
And Chris,
it's a balancing act, because I also want to be respectful of the role of the QUISP, but yeah.
Yeah, I was guessing that we probably weren't expected to weigh in too much on whether projects comply with the policy, i.e. are eligible. That's really a decision for DEC in conjunction with the QUISP to consider. Would you say that that's correct?
Yeah, but you might have knowledge, or like, as Adam just said, he was familiar with the project. And I mean, like, it's all valid conversation. Maybe I might throw the question back to Hillary or Devin or even Adam to answer. It's a little bit of the culture of your group, but I would say these are good questions to raise up and make sure you're going in the right direction on any given project. I did also want to make a point to the landowners in the room, like on behalf of the state, I wanted to thank you for being willing to support these projects. Wanted to just acknowledge you and appreciate your contribution to making things better. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Aaron.
Yeah, just in terms of the O&M on this, because obviously the ditches and things like that are gonna get sedimented in over time. Are the landowners on the hook for maintenance, or the lake association, or?
The way that it works right now is that the QUISP is on the hook for maintenance. So we would sign an agreement with the landowner saying that the landowner would allow access, so we could verify that the project's working. And then if the project is failing in some way, that we would, you know, hire a contractor to come and fix it. And those are those 10-year or 10 to 15-year maintenance agreements that we sign with landowners. It's really nice right now, because makes it easier for private property owners to participate in the program.
That'll be interesting. And then my other question is the existing 15-inch culvert pipe for drainage there. Has that been identified as anything that's starting to cause erosion problems at the outlet there? I know it's not far from the edge of the lake.
Yeah, I don't remember that being a problem, but Mark or Gloria, do you remember if there's any erosion at the end of that culvert? I think it's pretty flat right there, so water leaves that area fairly slowly, which is good.
Yeah, I think there's also a lot of debris. There might even be some beaver work down that direction. So that's actually distributed quite, it's spread out in the distribution from that lower culvert. And a fair amount of the erosion that's taking place up top is not actually making its way down all the way. So yeah, I think the lower culvert's not as large a problem.
Great.
I've seen times when it's a lot of rain, you can definitely see some water. But I didn't see any levels of it being a failure or anything close to it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel comfortable. Oh, maybe. Okay. Never mind.
Sorry, I'm just taking notes. Does somebody have a question?
I was gonna say I feel comfortable moving it forward. I hear what Shane's saying, and I can see the kind of duplicity that you're talking about, Shane. So I'm hearing what you're saying. But for this particular project, I'm comfortable moving it forward. But maybe we have more information that we're gonna digest here, so I'll be quiet.
Think
Yeah,
we
I'll-
just have, if we go to have you guys looked at the co-benefits for this one yet, right before you vote? Oh, this is the right co-benefit. Sorry, the title's wrong. But this is the right score. So this one had fewer points just because it had fewer, areas where it scored because it's more urban setting. And also, unlike the school, it has the community. I thought about this. It has the community of the Lake Association and these homeowners, but it's not sort of broader community in terms of the actual involvement in the project. I was a little bit back and forth on that one.
Yeah, I think given the project setting, the co-benefits are as would be expected, and I don't see that as a negative against the project. I mean, 7, I don't know. We haven't done enough of these to know what the average co-benefit score is or anything like that, so yeah.
Seems decent. Or Adam?
Just a question for you and Devin, Hillary. I probably should ask it on the first one too, but you helped develop it. I assume that as the QUISP, you've looked at it and you're in favor of it, even given the costs?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
There's such great support for this, and the Lake Association, it's going to be their first QUISP project application. So excited to have a new applicant locally.
Thank you.
Hillary, if I could just address the last comment from Katie, right? I'm not thinking that this project shouldn't be supported or is non-compliant with the policy because the water's coming from off-site. I think I'm just interested in the idea, if this one is, then why isn't a ditch project? Why wouldn't the ditch project be eligible? Because the reason that the ditch project was deemed ineligible is because we weren't fixing the core of the problem. We were we were putting a Band-Aid on the symptom. And I understand that this is a stormwater project and the other one's a ditch project, but what is
Which one
what
are
is
you talking
significant?
about, Shane?
What do you mean?
Which ditch project are you talking about?
The one, actually, the one that you are having a hard time getting through because the problem originates upland.
Yeah. So I
Upslope.
have a whole suite of those, and I will join you anytime in a conversation with DEC about why those are not ag projects. They are stormwater projects because of the cross culverts or because of the incision that's coming from down below. There's lots of reasons. I'd love to get you out to those sites, Shane.
Wait a minute,
But
you're saying that
we shouldn't
those,
talk about that now. We can talk about that like maybe after the meeting.
okay. All right, well, it's a policy issue. So if we were gonna it seemed that Chris said talking about policy was relevant. I just wanted to clarify that I wasn't suggesting that this project was inconsistent with the policy. I was suggesting that if this project is consistent with the policy, it seems rational to think the other project should also be consistent with the policy.
Yeah, and Shane, I understood that's where you were going with it, and I am
Okay.
agreeing. Yeah, we're all good.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'd love
So
to have
who-
that conversation with you, Shane, at some point. Maybe when we're talking about our strategic wood addition project.
So Hillary, I will move approval of the project as presented.
I'll
Fantastic.
second that.
I lost who that was. Sorry, I can't see everybody.
That's
Dan,
Dan.
That was Dan again. Sorry, Dan.
I'm good at seconding.
Okay, I love it.
All in favor? Hands are aye.
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 Any oppose? Any abstain? Great. That is good to go.
Listen, I'm expecting more folks to join for this last one, and I love that so many people are representing these projects today. Do we have anybody else join our meeting, Devin? I'm thinking maybe Matt Thorne or Jordan Duffy, Katie Stiles.
Katie's here, looks like.
Katie is here.
Katie's here. Okay.
I'm
Maybe I
here,
will.
yeah. I think
okay,
Jordan is planning on joining.
Yeah, they were saying maybe 4 o'clock. So we're doing pretty well. We're 4 minutes away from their target time.
So Shane, were you planning on recusing yourself from voting on this one?
Yeah, I won't vote on this one.
Okay. But do we still have a quorum then? If Shane's
Oh,
not
we
voting?
don't, because Katie can't vote on this one either.
Right.
Uh-oh.
What's the project timing, Hillary? It's quite a
Um,
ways. It's quite a ways out, correct?
Well, like 2 weeks. No, I don't know. It's
Can
not
we-
quite a ways out, but I don't know that it's becoming less and less. It's becoming apparent that we're probably not going to get out there this spring. We wanted to do some live staking and seeding, pretty quickly after the work started, if not some around the edges now, but beavers are actively trying to get their pond back right now.
Hillary, can you get someone to vote by email and who's not here after the fact?
I don't know. I was trying to, Paul Donaldson's doing ARPA reporting.
Could somebody explain the abstentions for conflict of interest?
Yeah, Dan, TNC is managing this dam removal project.
Gotcha.
And Bolton Meadowy is the applicant, so.
Yeah, we'd be doing the tree planting.
I mean, I guess we all have conflicts here and there. I mean, that's a pretty direct one, but as a nursery owner, some of these projects I stand to benefit from because they come to me for plants. So even though I'm not listed in any sort of way, I can't deny that I see some of these projects and say, whoa, hey, look there's a lot of need coming up here. So in some respects, we're all in this. We all have our interest in this because who we are. So I definitely understand with the project owner, you needing to project manager, but it's one of these tough issues where I'd like to see less conflicts be applied. Not necessarily because it's we're trying to self deal here, but we certainly are all in this game because of our interest in the environment.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm gonna text Sarah and
If Shane didn't abstain, would we still not have quorum, or we
need one more person, and I feel like Shane, TNC isn't getting anything for the planting, so they're managing the dam removal, but not the planting. So maybe that's a little less conflicty. I know TNC has very high standards and ethics, but
So
yeah,
they not-
I think when you're the project manager, I think Shane's got the right approach. Yeah, I don't know how you can get away from that one.
Is TNC, they're receiving money,
but not from us,
right?
not for the planting, just for the dam removal.
That's what I thought, so. Not a direct conflict.
Paul is maybe, his answer was, I can try watching a seminar. think he means he can try, but he's watching a seminar. Okay, we can start presenting, and if Paul.
Hillary, before you start presenting, I'm going to let you know I need to go, but I've got Andrew LaRoe who's going to sit in for me and vote and does water quality work for us as well.
Okay. Okay.
Okay?
Sounds
Okay.
good. Thank you so much for your help today, Adam.
Okay.
Yeah, Adam.
Yeah, thank you. And Andrew will join in just a sec.
Okay. Okay, so this is a dam removal. The Nature Conservancy has been managing the dam removal. It's basically replanting after the dam is removed. So it's a 40-acre pond, and there'll be roughly 10 acres left of standing water after the dam removal is done. And then there'll be 30 acres planted over the next, we were thinking over the next kind of 4 planting seasons, which would be a little bit of live staking and seeds in the spring at the edges that are already exposed. And then as the water gets drawn down and as the soil kind of solidifies over time, as we can get in, doing more plantings, putting in fascines along where there are going to be new river channels where the inlet water, the inflow water is coming in from there's 4 different tributaries that come in. And sort of letting those, one of Shannon's concerns as a rivers program is that we let those start to establish their paths. And then the engineer was talking about putting fascines, which are these like woven together willow, I don't know, like little willow logs that you create by weaving the branches together, and then they all sprout. So you can get like thousands of willow sprouts off of these fascines if they do well. So kind of putting those, like once we start to see how the little streams are going to go, sort of putting those on what might be the new stream banks to help provide a little bit of structure for those streams, try to provide some floodplain with those willows. And then planting in the next, in future years as things solidify more, like next year, putting in some trees and shrubs as we can get in there to do that. So that is the plan. So I think it's been a little bit back and forth between Shannon with the Rivers Program at DEC and Jordan Duffy, who's the engineer on the project from Fitzgerald Environmental. And I don't know if Jordan is here, but if Jordan was here, Jordan, oh, great.
I am here.
Jordan, the next, if we, let's go to so it scores, this one scores really well. It's a tree planting, so tree plantings always score really highly, and there's a ton of co-benefits. But anyhow, if we go to the map, which, if you go forward, there we go. There's kind of the bird's eye view of the project. And Jordan, if you want to run folks through a little bit through the project and how it's sort of the time sequence and how the planting might go.
Yeah, sure. I think you did a good preliminary stage setting there. So yeah, this is looking at the full pond. Down in that bottom right-hand corner is the actual dam. The area highlighted in red that you can kind of see is our area of sediment removal that we are proposing immediately upstream of the dam. And then kind of up beyond that will be natural and passive restoration of the stream channels coming in. And then we'll have this active planting plan is what we are talking about today. So kind of as Hillary said, we're looking at this in phases. So right now there's actually some additional beaver activity going on there. So the water surface elevation is a little higher than desired this year. But we're going to be working on that and getting that down. So some of the fringes of this pond will be hopefully accessible sometime soon. Right now, likely a lot of the pond edges are very wet and not accessible by foot, at least not easily accessible. So as much as we'd like to get out there this spring and plant ASAP, it may be a little less feasible than we had initially intended. So the flexibility of the schedule based on accessibility is going to be a large portion. But as Hillary said, breaking this up into planting live stakes and seeding kind of some of the edge areas. And then as you can see on this plan, the kind of 4 alignments, the cyan colored lines are the tributaries that come into the pond. So we're expecting them to move and kind of form their own channels over time. And we would like to give them some riparian plantings and kind of use those willow fascines that she had mentioned to prevent excessive erosion and plan form adjustment and see if we can kind of control a little bit more of how much erosion is seen as those channels hit their own equilibrium. So that would be one of the maybe second or third phases, depending on accessibility. And then one of the final phases would be getting out into somewhere closer to the middle of the pond and establishing more vegetation via seed and some live stakes and bare root trees and things of that nature. So yeah, did I miss anything big, Hillary, based on what you've put together?
No, that sounded great. And I just realized, so Sarah Pelkey's joined us, and Andrew's with us now, and there's an M. Goulet on who might be Mary Ann. Is that correct? Because we might have quorum again.
This request is for all phases of the work, yes. The full planting plan that would be stretched out over multiple seasons.
Devin, can you confirm if Mary Ann has joined us?
We do have quorum. I don't see Marianne.
Okay. Says people out of the chat, M. Goulet. Am I just
Yeah, she must have fallen off. I don't see her on here.
okay? So do we have enough people though without Katie and Shane? We have Sarah added now. Oh, Paul's on too. Great. Okay, we got 2 new people. We have the best book ever, I just have to say.
Thank you, Paul and Sarah.
Hillary,
Yeah, I
this
think-
is Chris. Can I just jump in? I would just note if this is going to be a project over multiple seasons, multiple years, it's going to take, we don't really give you credit until the project is closed out. So this may be a challenge in terms of the timing and your phasing. Not that that's a problem. It looks like it's a great project. Just something to keep in mind logistically.
Chris, do you think we could break it up into like 2 contracts or something like that? Would that?
Well, that's what I was suggesting. That's what I'm thinking. Like, can you do one phase in a smaller amount, like break it in half? I don't know what's natural here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we could do something like that so we could close out part of it so you guys could get the credit.
Well, Hillary and Chris, are you talking about like you would come back to the QUISP with a proposal for the second phase, or?
No, because the BLIC just has to approve the project and the funding, and the QUISP then figures out how to contract it. All those pieces are QUISP. So if you said this amount of funding for this project sounds fine, then we could figure out, like we would be just talking about maybe breaking it into multiple contracts so we could close one out after it's done so that the state could put that credit on the current year, whatever year it closes out.
And then the funding would come in so you could pay the contract?
Yeah, we bill quarterly or monthly or whatever, so it wouldn't matter. Like we would just like, I don't know how we would set it up, but we could figure that out. I feel like it's similar with LCBP where like you have tasks within a contract, it would be like that. So once one task was closed out, that piece would be done and you could close it out maybe.
So the concern isn't necessarily getting the ability to invoice this, to get the money from the state to pay the contract. It's about getting the credits as soon as you can get the credits posted.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's that, you have to wait the full 2.5 years to get the credits. So then on our formula, we wouldn't be making our formula potentially.
Okay.
I think also just from a contracting best practices point of view, if you're going to have, let's say there's 4 phases, I think you just described, if you could do 2 and 2 and separate contracts, it's just, it's just good to not have a 3, 4, or 5 year contract that's bigger, just to break it into smaller chunks, and then,
Mhm.
you know, you're just, yeah, make it more bite-sized and not have everything be in one agreement.
Yeah, it's a
I'm
really
sure
good
Mary
idea,
Kay
Chris.
would appreciate that.
But the money would
I
be
feel like it
there.
depends on
and-
which side of the equation you're on, because if I was on the opposite side of that equation, I would totally want a 3 to 5 year contract because that makes it way less admin burden
Yeah.
on me. But but
Yeah.
I
Right,
imagine
so
from the
fewer
state
final
or like
reports.
the organizational perspective as the funder, it's might be more streamlined to do the smaller kind of bite-sized ones for the crediting purposes. But
I'm also thinking about costs and how costs might change in 2 to 3 years. So I don't know if, yeah, how you'd want to work that or kind of come to that understanding of who ate the costs.
We could always come back to the BWIC if we needed to.
We did have to come back at one point for the LWAP, and that got
Right.
passed by the book.
yeah, for the purposes of the BWIC and the project approval piece, you know, I think it's pretty clear. And then the QUISP has to figure out the timeline of things.
And this one, Zapata, so I should have, it's funny, so we have these staff reviews that we didn't get to you guys on time. As you know, we're all a little short staffed at the QUISP right now. But so we did have the staff comments, which I don't think we had in our slides, but are in our staff reviews that you guys didn't get to see. But this one in the Meadowy School have like approved projects with Zapata. And then, like I said, Shannon's still kind of working through some questions with Jordan. But for us as the conservation district, we're really flexible in terms of plantings, and we have the native plant nursery. So we're happy to wait until all the questions get. Thank you so much, Chris. It was really good to see you today. And you know, until all these questions get kind of ironed out, that's not abnormal for us dealing with plantings and multiple agencies who help sort of direct what those look like. Dan?
Question on phase 1, phase 2, with the idea that we now have a quorum, so effectively we'd be able to get those projects done for spring this year. That looks feasible from my experience. The fall phase 2, you've got some bare root plantings. In my experience, that's a really hard thing to do to accomplish in the fall. There's limited availability of species. There's a very narrow window for when plants have gone dormant, and you can be a successful bare rooting. And then lastly, the conditions tend to be limited in the fall. Depends on how soon winter comes in and cold weather sets, because you get such a narrow window to do work there. The fascines certainly should be done in the fall. Much easier to do that at that point, but bare rooting stuff is a challenge. So I just wanted to make people aware of that.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, and we have a bigger crew than usual, so hopefully if that window hits properly and we can get plants, that we'd have the people to get out there. And I think we're still waiting to kind of see how the sediments solidify in that area too. That'll be another challenge.
Yeah, just my experience, like people asking for bare root plants in the fall is like, I say, well, okay, it looks like they may be available November 1. And then you're looking at, well, maybe depending on where they come from, you know, what areas have had their hard frost or not had their hard frost, certainly impacts what's available. So just be aware of that if people are trying to account for certain allotment of reductions, you know, per types of plants being installed or activities.
So the one other thing that Shannon brought up that was concern to her, and this is a little bit of the elephant in the room maybe, is that when this lake was drained or is going to be drained, none of the surrounding landowners have, nobody has like the way that the lots are described in the legal documents, they're all pin to pin. So the people who live on these adjoining lots own from this pin to that pin. They don't own to the edge of water. So the lake is sort of that lake bottom, which is going to be left bare after the water drains out, is sort of an unowned piece of land. The dam owners are sort of the guardians, I think, of this area, and have been working with the landowners to get sort of consensus on all of this. And there's quite a bit of concern from the landowners. There's knotweed in that northern stream that comes down from Lake Beebe. And so people are really concerned that if the planting doesn't happen, that the knotweed's going to spread. So that's something that we've been wrestling with a little bit as a QUISP in terms of like, we would be taking responsibility for planting that isn't on land that has anybody who's against the planting, but it's just a little bit of, sort of the people who own the dam will sign the O&M and help us make sure that the planting is maintained. But it is the sort of gray area in terms of what's going to happen to that land. I don't know if it reverts back to the state. It's under the wetlands program jurisdiction right now. But just wanted to bring that up because it is a kind of a confusing and unusual circumstance. And I don't know if Matt is on the call. He was going to maybe speak to this a little bit.
Hillary, I can.
Yeah.
I can speak to it if there are any questions about it. Yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. I mean, you explained it generally correctly, and so if anybody has any questions, I guess what I could say is that, so we're working what we're referring to as land of unknown ownership at this point, because the deeds don't describe that anybody actually owns this land, and they go back so far, and deeds get so poorly described at some point, ambiguous, that it would take a massive legal effort to try to determine, and with a pretty good likelihood that you could not determine who actually owns this land. We worked with an attorney who litigated the Lake Champlain case. It was the railroad versus the state on Lake Champlain about this similar issue, and he concluded that, he's the one that concluded the statement that I just made, that it would be a very expensive endeavor and you might not ever get to an answer. So we're working on land of unknown ownership. TNC has gotten to the point where we're willing to undertake that risk. I think that our conversations with the state and the dam removal community lead us to believe that as more and more dam removals are done and the impoundments that are worked on get to be larger, because it's the instance where we have such a large impoundment that really results in this scenario, that we're going to run into this more often. And we actually did run into a similar situation in Colchester a few years ago, but nobody knew until after the fact. So everything got done, and then it was realized that no one knew who owns the land. And I don't think anybody still does know who owns the land. So that's a little more on the scenario.
Any questions about that little bombshell?
I mean, does that affect the overall planting scheme? I mean, I feel like that kind of affects the O&M a little bit, but if that's back on the QUISP, then.
Right.
Yeah, that was kind of our thought, and Devin can chime in here if he wants to, but like, it's sort of the QUISP taking on that risk, if you will. But that it needs to be planted. I think that's the problem, is that if you just leave it unplanted, it could cause so much erosion.
Yeah, and obviously tree planting O&M looks a lot different than hard infrastructure O&M, so a little bit less concerned that way.
We might be fighting the beavers though for our trees.
Yeah, right.
And then you get an impoundment again. And then it's the beaver
Right.
time.
I don't, Hillary, I don't know if you mentioned this, and Jordan, if I don't know that I still understand the timing of all this accurately because I'm not really involved with the project anymore. But the removal of the dam, the reason that there's area to be planted now is that there was some emergency action taken last season to remove a portion of the dam because it was active. It was on the verge of falling over. So there was a little bit of emergency work done, which partially drained the impoundment, leaving some bare soils that need to be planted sooner. But my understanding, Jordan, I don't know the timing that when the rest of the work is the completion of the removal is going to be done.
Yeah, that's a good point, Shane. I didn't bring up. So, yeah, the dam safety program recommended we do a risk reduction measure. So last year we breached a portion of the dam, lowered the water surface about 6 feet. So, looking at this image here, the outer cyan line was the original kind of edge of water. And if you step in one blue line, that is our kind of current edge of water, which we're calling our ordinary high water. So that was 6 feet lower. Asterisk that is about 3 feet higher right now because of beaver activity on the breach that we did last year. Which, we'll get to that. So that's what we're working in under our quote unquote existing conditions. So everything between that cyan line and that outer blue line, in theory, is exposed sediment that under our original planting plan was going to be our phase 1 was going to be to address that this spring. So that way during this growing season, that would have opportunity to establish vegetation, get some roots in, decrease erosion. And then the project is currently out to bid right now, and we're going to be removing the remainder of the dam this summer. So we have an in-stream window of June 1 to October 1, and that is our window to do it. And that's what our funding sources are good until the end of this year. So it kind of needs to all come out by October. So the phase 2 planting would again happen after that dam is removed and the full water surface is lowered. That inner blue circle that you see there is kind of the expected remaining water surface, which based on our bathymetric survey would be somewhere between a ponded area and a very wetland area. So the exact conditions and elevations are a little unknown just based on survey methods, but that's our best understanding of there will be a wet area in there remaining. So, and then whether we can actually plant that or not will be questionable, but it was included in our phase 3 planting to kind of plant as much of that middle area as possible. So that's our timing. And then I think we had expected that next spring, so spring of 27, we would go in and plant any remaining areas that haven't been planted or need to be replanted. And Hillary, did we even kick out maybe a 4th phase into later that year?
I think we were trying to drag it back a little bit. I think we
Yeah.
were worried about, and then the fascines will be hard too. We're gonna
Mhm.
have to figure out the sourcing on those, and there are a lot of them.
You don't have the image of all of the phases, the color coded plan sheet.
I
do you?
don't. I just have this.
Okay.
But if you wanted to share your screen, you could show it.
Oh, that's okay. I don't have it up unless anyone's particularly interested. But I think, as you said, there's a really big, the fascine's probably the largest cost of this, and kind of in our eyes, one of the largest pieces that will drastically contribute to the decrease of erosion potential, because we're kind of looking at all 4 of these inlets and applying a meander belt width, so 6 times the bank full width of those channels, and then planting a whole bunch of those fascines spaced perpendicularly to that flow. So kind of hoping to root as much as possible to prevent too much lateral motion.
Thanks, Jordan. And Katie was just saying, Katie's the owner of the dam, Katie Stiles. So I don't know, Katie, if you want to say anything or not, but you're welcome to. I think
Hi, guys. A number of you know me with my other hat on as district manager of Rutland. But I have my landowner hat on today. I don't really have anything to say that hasn't already been said. Jordan knows the situation really well and can probably answer questions on our behalf that might come up. Thanks to TNC and Hillary and Jordan for all your support in this process so far. If anyone has questions, I've got to hop off in 5 minutes, but just wanted to make sure there's space for people to do so before then.
That's coming to my attention. We need to vote in the next 5 minutes too. And I know Paul joined us from a seminar or something, so he's probably wanting to get back also. So I don't know if there's any concern or questions about this one.
I just have a really quick question. If you do get a lot of knotweed, is there money in the O&M, or would that be a separate funding bit to kind of help control that?
Yeah, we talked about that quite a bit, and Jordan, I might let you hop in because I think you and Sadie had some pretty in-depth conversations about that and the challenges of knotweed.
Yeah, we discussed this in depth kind of as a larger team with Zapata included. And our best defense against the knotweed as we were looking at it was going to be an offense on getting as much native plantings in there to take root prior to the spread of knotweed. And I know that's kind of a pretty optimistic approach, but removal of the knotweed is a very difficult process that I think, would be a lot to take on. And I don't know if anyone's fully committing to a multi-year eradication of knotweed here, because I think that just comes at a very high cost, and there's likely chemicals associated, and would just be a much larger endeavor than I think we're committed to. So, like I said, at this point, I think we're committing to a solid offense.
Okay, thank you. I just wasn't sure
Yeah.
what your thoughts were.
Yeah, thanks.
It'd be good if we voted on this one soon.
Yeah.
Since we have this lovely
Appreciate
group join us to make quorum.
I move we vote on this.
Is that Dan?
What inspired you, Dan?
Well, I otherwise I have to wait to be the second, right?
Right?
Do we have a second?
Second. All in favor? Higher hands. Any opposed? And who is abstaining?
Katie.
I'm Shane.
Great. Hooray for plantings.
You guys were so calm about the lack of ownership. I was like, oh, this is going to blow this up.
And I mean, it
Hillary-
sounds like all three phases would actually be pretty well contained within the coming fiscal year.
I don't know about
If we were talking
that.
about like up through spring
Fall, spring,
2027.
Some of it for sure.
Yeah. Just in terms of, feeling like you need to break up the contract or anything like that. But
Yeah.
anyway,
I think we were looking at there's 4 different planting waves. So maybe some
Sure.
early bits this spring. And then I know Shannon would like to see it seeded at least, if not getting some stakes and things in there.
for sure.
Thanks, Katie. Well, you guys are amazing. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time and reviewing everything. And sorry we were just got our staff reports for us, apparently, but get those out next time.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I
Are
think
we adjourning or am I handing this off
Yes.
to Shane for Quisp updates?
I think we can skip that right now.
Yeah, I guess we'll have new staff, right? To have next meeting,
Right.
we should have new staff to introduce everybody to, and if not
Yep.
before then.
Cool,
Awesome.
sounds good.
Great. Devin, do you want to
Or-
stand for 2 seconds? We'll just coordinate quickly. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. I guess I have to let you adjourn before I thank you all.
Do we need a motion? Do we motion to adjourn? Are we that formal?
You can have
We
the
always
chair
do, even if
adjourn.
we don't have to.
Don't have to. Okay.
All right.
All right.
4:29.
Thanks all. We'll see you next time.
Thank you all
Take care.
for
Thank you.
Bye.
discussion.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.